Thanks everyone for joining today's webinar, Stop the Number One Cloud Threat, Unauthorized Access to Infrastructure as a Service. I'm Luis Romero from our product marketing team, and also joining me today is Donovan Blaylock from our product management group. We're going to kick off the webinar talking about several of the business realities many organizations are dealing with in today's now very dynamic environment. Next, we'll talk about how Cloud IaaS has entrenched itself and impacted the business. We'll then go into some of the challenges that have been brought upon by the adoption of Cloud IaaS and why managing and governing access to these cloud environments is now more important than ever. We'll then show you a step-by-step approach on how you can take control of your cloud environments. We'll wrap up by outlining some of the business benefits you'll reap with the right cloud governance strategy. Let's take a look at what business realities organizations are facing today. First and foremost, this year's pandemic has accelerated everyone's digital transformation journey. As businesses quickly shifted to a virtual workforce, it was critical to get them productive and ensure they had access to the applications and data they needed to do their jobs. The ease and efficiency of cloud-based applications have been embraced by organizations and their users in this new normal. This has led to increased adoption of cloud-based tools and the deployment of more applications and workloads on IaaS platforms in order to support a global virtual workforce. The advantages of the cloud are undeniable, and this will continue to fuel the push to the cloud. Organizations also continue to deal with an ongoing wave of compliance regulations globally. Whether companies need to adhere to SOX or even data privacy requirements, they now need to ensure they are implementing compliance controls not only for access to applications and unstructured data, but also to IaaS access. Today, there are more users, more apps, and more data, which can equate to millions of identities and points of access. Throw in the highly dynamic nature of IaaS platforms, and it becomes difficult to take a human-based manual approach to keep the business moving efficiently. It's more critical than ever to incorporate automation and enable users to focus on the things that matter. In the midst of these business realities, the reliance on cloud platforms has become front and center. Many organizations today are adopting cloud infrastructure as a service platforms such as AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform to build and host internal and external facing applications and workloads. And there's good reason why businesses are taking advantage of these cloud platforms. Spinning up new IT resources are just a click away, which dramatically increases agility across the organization. You can scale to your exact business needs in minutes without having to guess on capacity and can pay for only what you consume. You no longer have to maintain data centers and can focus directly on your business. And you can go global in just minutes and deploy your applications anywhere around the world in just a few clicks. Cloud IaaS platforms provide a simple way to access applications and workloads such as servers, storage, and databases, amongst other things that can run on these platforms. It's become so pervasive that 78% of enterprises are using 2 or more IaaS platforms, and over 90% plan to use more than one cloud provider going forward. It's no surprise that Microsoft Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud Platform tend to be the most relied upon IaaS providers globally. Depending on the region, there may be a preference for a particular platform. For instance, EMEA and APAC show a strong preference for Google Cloud Platform, while North America is skewed towards Azure and AWS. There are a number of other platforms that are also in use across all of these regions and highlights the continued adoption of multiple platforms. There's no disputing the benefits and ease of a multi-cloud strategy. But as organizations rush towards IaaS adoption, the benefits of cloud platforms have come to outpace the security and governance needs that are just as important. It becomes so easy to spin up an AWS instance that it can be done in Slack with a set of slash commands. This ease has contributed to an unprecedented scale and complexity of cloud workloads, which can number into thousands or millions. Due to the ephemeral nature of cloud workloads, they can have hundreds of changes every day involving creation, deletion, or modification of objects, along with access policies and controls. Access and authorization controls are very complex in the cloud, and when combined with roles, objects, and Active Directory, it can be very challenging to understand. Many organizations just can't keep up with this volume complexity or the constant state of change. Manually spot checking access in the cloud just doesn't scale. Organizations using 2 or 3 cloud platforms may be relying on individual native management tools for each platform. This lack of consistent visibility, controls, and policies not only is burdensome to manage, but also creates a situation for inconsistent security and compliance gaps. This issue couldn't be more clear and present, as 97% of organizations today are experiencing problems managing their IaaS access, and many are still trying to get by with manual processes, which simply can't keep up with the scale and complexity and dynamic nature of cloud access. We touched on some of the challenges that organizations are experiencing with IaaS environments. Next, let's drill down into what these problems look like. In order to manage or govern cloud access, you first have to get visibility into and understand this access. This first step is where many organizations are already falling short. They don't have an automated process that reaches out across all of their IaaS platforms to gather all the access users have across all cloud environments that are out in the wild. Those that are using multiple IaaS vendors may have some native tools, but these disparate tools can't give them a single unified view of all cloud access. Keep in mind that this isn't just a one and done process. As access and workloads continually change, you need to keep up with these changes. Another problem is the inability to map access to users and resources within IaaS platforms. For example, with AWS, federated identities don't exist. Since the actual user doesn't exist in the local user repository, you can't see what effective access will be provided once inside AWS. Identifying excessive, unused, or non-compliant access is also a problem because there are thousands of fine-grained entitlements and permissions, and it's difficult to understand what access is really needed. This leads to a high level of stale or over-provisioned access, which opens the door to data breach risk. This also makes it very difficult to maintain a framework of least privileged access, which is necessary to meet compliance regulations, including GDPR. Many organizations are still taking a human-based approach to manage access to cloud environments. But the reality is that these cloud environments are constantly being spun up and taken down, and the scale and the velocity of the change is so fast that no manual approach can begin to keep up. In a fast-paced cloud environment, hundreds of VMs can be created and taken down without anyone noticing whether that granted access to these VMs was appropriate or not, which opens up significant security and compliance gaps. Without an automated approach to discover and manage this access, the organization will always be behind. This directly ties into the onboarding and offboarding of access as users join the organization, move into different roles, and leave the company. Often there's not a standard approach to manage the lifecycle of this access. A user's cloud access in AWS and Azure might be managed by the native tools, while the access to the other applications and data might be managed by other tools. If the user leaves the organization, the likelihood that their access is simultaneously removed across all 3 points of access is pretty slim, and potentially leaves open access to somebody who no longer is with the company. Taking a manual approach when it comes to managing privileged access opens yet another set of risks. With the dynamic nature of the cloud, it's difficult to keep up with who has access to VMs as a privileged user. Without automation, there will be questions around whether credentials are being securely created and are they being rotated according to policy. Not addressing these questions is quite a gamble, especially when dealing with privileged sensitive access. Many organizations have long had to deal with a variety of regulations such as SOX or GDPR, especially as it pertains to their on-premises applications and data. As these applications and data get moved into cloud environments, the same policies and processes need to be applied in order to address compliance requirements. But this often is not the case because companies don't have a holistic approach to get visibility and manage access in the cloud. Especially if they're multi-cloud, they're leveraging multiple tools to try and get some semblance of who has access to financial data within their on-premises applications, on AWS, on Azure, etc. Compliance and IT teams are having to query multiple reporting systems, likely having to bother DevOps teams to get reporting they need from them on who has access to what IaaS environments. With this disparate approach, it slows down their ability to give auditors the right reporting they're looking for the first time. Many compliance regulations are mandating the need for a least privilege model, but with the scale and variety of cloud access, the lack of visibility and control make this an uphill battle, especially when there are potentially thousands of permissions and entitlements to understand and manage. Obviously, there are a number of challenges that have been introduced as organizations continue to adopt IaaS platforms, but these challenges don't have to get in the way of the benefits of the cloud. Many of these challenges can be addressed by managing user access across all of your IaaS platforms together with your applications and data under a single unified identity program. With this comprehensive framework, you'll be able to discover, model, manage, and govern access across all of your IaaS environments. The first step is discovering all of your IaaS access. This will give you a complete view of the IaaS access each of your users have, both from an identity and a resource perspective. As part of the discovery phase, you'll be able to get an enterprise-wide view of the entire set of access each identity has that includes applications, data, and IaaS access. As you move on to the model phase, you'll be able to model what access should look like based on assignments, activities, and policies. You'll also be able to create a consistent set of policies across multiple IaaS platforms. As you head into the manage phase, you can automatically assign and provision access to IaaS environments as users join the organization, maybe move to new roles, or leave the company. In the normal course of business, cloud environments are quickly being created and taken down. By obfuscating, managing, and assigning shared credential access, you can ensure that privileged resources are properly secured. The last phase focuses on governing IaaS access. Here you can automate access reviews and access requests to verify that the right users have access to the right data according to governance policies. And to prove compliance, you have access to a complete set of reporting and historical views to provide to auditors. We've outlined the process you should take to secure access to your IaaS environments. Next, I'll turn it over to Donovan to provide a glimpse of what this looks like in practice.
Thanks, Lewis. Let's look at some practical usage of SailPoint's cloud governance and IGA tools to accomplish these tasks. We'll start with one and go through the whole thing, but understand this is a life cycle. This is continuously going on in the background. In our first step of discovery, it's important that we be very broad in scope. We have to look at all objects across AWS, GCP, and Azure IaaS environments. It's also extremely important to calculate out effective access granted to each one of those objects through a combination of group memberships, obfuscations, and policies. Speaking of indirect access, we need to include in this not just the direct, but also the indirect. The typical path of somebody getting access to your IaaS infrastructure is often indirect, sometimes solely indirect. So understanding who has access to roles or service accounts in your organization is extremely important. In correlation, your IGA system already provides account mappings to identities as well as attribute synchronization on those accounts. It also houses information about the access people have into those systems. Enhancing that visibility to include direct IaaS environments, indirect access to IaaS environments, and additionally tagging of groups like Active Directory groups with federated and indirect access relationships is critical for approvers and reviewers and auditors. When we're modeling and creating access, identity governance and administration is largely focused on who has access to what and how is that access being utilized. In IaaS infrastructure, it's no different, but now we have both human and non-human identities often getting access through an indirect method. We need to fully understand which of those indirect methods are being used and which ones are not being used. Once all of that is understood, we can point our artificial intelligence automation capabilities to fully automate some functionalities like access bundle creation, updating of existing access bundles, and a constant review of access granted across the enterprise. Step 4 is all about defining access policies. SailPoint's cloud governance already has many access policies built in that constantly scan your GCP, AWS, and Azure environments alike. This gives you real-time and actionable security data to forward to security and SIEM tools, automatically create work orders and tickets, or provide the data your DevOps team needs to do reviews. Additionally, you now have the capability for self-search for things that are uniquely of concern across your IaaS enterprise, even if it's a mix of providers. These searches can easily be used to create policies targeted to your specific organization. SailPoint's IGA platform already provides a rich access provisioning system for all your applications and their entitlements. This can automate common events like joiners, movers, leavers, and provide access reviews. Extending this process to include account creation, role assumptions, and indirect privileges to your IaaS environments is now relatively easy. Shared credentials are a big part of an IaaS environment. Indirect privileged access to your cloud IaaS environment is different than privilege to your cloud applications. This environment has many object types and a very rapid rate of change. Small defined groups in your enterprise need elevated access to these objects in near or at real time. SailPoint Cloud Governance already discovers all the new virtual servers and objects very quickly. Now we can feed that stream of systems to ensure that the right people have the access they need in these systems automatically. This access is now automated, obfuscated, meaning they're not using the direct accounts, and the credentials they use are created and cycled automatically according to a policy you set. Almost more important than all of that is this access is now visible to reviewers and auditors inside the IGA platform. Obtaining access does not mean that users should keep access in perpetuity. Identity governance and administration has transformed this space by enabling the business to easily and accurately review access for both security and compliance concerns. These reviews can now include access to your GCP, AWS, and Azure IaaS environments. Additionally, reviewers and auditors have information at their fingertips to see the indirect access that is often given but rarely seen in this part of your enterprise. Audits. What does it mean when they say audit data and audit proof? Audit data can either be manually collected and dissected by specialized teams or provided centrally by a system of record. SailPoint's IGA platform provides a centralized, tamper-proof, secure, and easy-to-view system of record for all identities, including their access, accounts, and a complete historical record. This includes direct, indirect, and now IaaS enterprise access. SailPoint provides the single source of comprehensive identity data and easy reporting capabilities that drive down the cost and complexity of audits while also ensuring your enterprise will always be audit ready. We've talked about a lot of stuff in very short order today, but we want to wrap up with what we feel are 4 key business benefits of including SailPoint's cloud governance solutions into your existing identity governance and administration program. A big part of that is visibility. With visibility, we can now see the direct and indirect access people are often granted into your IaaS realm and include that centrally right alongside the access people have to their applications. Risk reduction is a big part of that. We can now create review campaigns that incorporate or include or maybe focus specifically on access to your IaaS realm, whether or not they have it directly or indirectly. And definitely the final 2 are big ones: enhancing business efficiency by automating some processes, particularly using artificial intelligence to enhance the process here, and a method that simply could not be done easily or efficiently by humans alone is the way of the future and makes a lot of sense when quickly moving to the cloud. And last, but certainly not least, cost savings. The cost saving benefits of doing these things in an automated fashion, reducing the cost and pain of audits, are big parts of what we can provide fairly easily in this particular realm. If you would like more information about this or any other SailPoint products, please go to our website, www.sailpoint.com. There you can request additional information, download information on your own, or if you would like a demonstration about this or anything else we do, we'd be glad to do that via our website. Also, social media platforms, feel free to like us or link to us on those platforms, and we'll provide you a constant stream of updates in the identity world. And last but not least, we have a very rich and full YouTube channel. So find us on YouTube and feel free to check out our videos there, and we're constantly updating them with additional content. Thanks for your time today and have a great day.